All right. Good morning, everybody. So, today, talked to a friend of mine recently, and I was telling him how important this is to me, this painting hobby, because it helps me get my focus back. It helps me think. I could sit here and kind of let my body do its thing while my brain does its thing, and I wanted to kind of share how this has helped me with growing from getting out of the military and the terror that went along with that to using it as my crutch. This is where I come when I get stressed out during the day and I need to think about what I did or what I was involved in. And that is why I want to get some info right here real quick. I'm going to tell you guys an incident that happened to me, and hopefully can help me make a decent assessment of it, because one of the things that I've kept from the Army is the concept of the after action review, where I am involved in something and I sit down and I think about, how did I do that? How did I do it well? What could have been better? How could I have made it way better? What were the things that I did wrong, or the things that I need to improve upon next time to make it better? Not necessarily wrong. So anyway, bearing that in mind, so yesterday I was at a stoplight and everything was cool, I was decided I didn't want to go through the light. So I drove through a parking lot. The idea of driving through the parking lot, I wasn't speeding or anything. I just didn't want to sit at the light. I wanted to keep moving. And as I was going through the parking lot, a guy saw me, sped up, and cut me off, like he intentionally intended to cut me off, because, the middle finger and the smile he gave me when he did kind of reinforced that. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, man, is this really that necessary? Was it necessary for that? So I started thinking about it. I gave a guy a beep on the horn. And of course, he gave me the finger and sat at the exit of the parking lot onto the road, just blocking the road with his hands up, put his hands up behind his head like he was leaning back to stretch or take a nap. So I went around him. And as I went around him, he saw that I was going around him, and he threw his hands down and tried to gun his car to shoot out in front of me. And when he did, he shot out in front of another car and almost wrecked that car. And that guy started yelling at him. And I drove around, and he's sitting there pointing at me and screaming. And the guy's like, "What are you doing?" And the whole time it's like, probably could have really been avoided if I'd have just not been a ding dong and decided to sit at the traffic light rather than just, keep moving. So I've thought about it a lot since yesterday. I've been wondering, as many times as I like to say, if you've got to think about it, you're the butthole in this relationship, so to speak, or in this situation, you are not, or I am not the butthole. In this case, everyone was a butthole. There is not even a little bit of shred of doubt about that. All of us were buttholes. And that makes me wonder, why am I a butthole? I don't care about him. He's not important. He's not what's the issue here. This is about trying to figure out what I did wrong, how I let that affect me. So started thinking about that. That led me to thinking about some other things, how I let other things affect me. And it's very difficult. One of the things that they taught us in the Army was you have to be confident in your decision making. If you make the wrong decision, excuse me, you still have to make a decision. Sorry, I'm still sick, still suffering from the Rona, so I'm having trouble keeping everything going right now. But anyway, so in the Army, they teach you, you got to be confident in your decisions. Good, bad, or ugly, you have to make a decision. Lead or follow, but get the hell out of the way. You know, you got to do something. You can't just sit there. So, especially since I got blown up, I can't just sit in traffic. You know, I see traffic and I start trying to figure out how I could get through there, how I can get myself through there before a bomb goes off. And that's really what pops off in my head every time. How do I get out of here before I get blowed up? And it's gotten to the point where I'm nervous about driving. I don't think I should be driving. I do not think I should be driving anymore. I don't think it's safe for the people around me. I don't think it's safe for me. I don't think it's safe for the people with me. That's just, you know, one of those brutally hard personal assessments you have to accept that, you know, especially as a guy, you're a crappy driver. I'm not a crappy driver. I've been through some really advanced schools to learn how to drive. EVOC school, the emergency vehicle operators course, the anti-terrorist drivers course, the personal security detail, evasion and escape course. You know, I did all of these things because I had buddies that were drill sergeants at the time, or I had buddies that were teaching those courses at the time. So I'd be like, hey man, I need in that course. And be like, all right, if you could take leave and be TDY or whatever, if you're not on the thing, just show up and I'll get you in the course. And that's how I got into a lot of those, because I knew somebody. So it's not the fact that I can't drive or I don't know how to drive or I don't drive well. You know, I drive very well. It's just I take unnecessary risks in what most people would be considered even, you know, remotely safe driving. So I think about all of this. I think about what it means for me to be among the normal rank and file humans that don't have these kind of skills. And I realize I'm falling into some traps. You know, the statistical traps that you hear about people in the military, you know, how long they last after they get out, you know, what the triggers are that make them want to opt out early or become suicidal. You know, that's the stuff that I pay attention to, because that's the stuff that still affects me, you know. So I wonder, how long am I going to be a statistic? You know, how long am I going to sit here and be angry about things? And, you know, how long am I going to be frustrated about things? So I got to sit here and think while I paint. It helps me realize, you know, it gives me the time to analyze all of those situations. And I start to, you know, realize, you know, it's not about you. It's not about you, Nick. It's not your world. You know, it's not about that person. It's not that person's world. It's about just people in general. And people are selfish in general. It's very hard to find a person that's not selfish. And you know, it's easy for me to point my finger and say, hey, look, selfish person. Yeah, I get that. It's not what I'm doing here. What I'm going for here is it's very hard to find someone that's willing to forego anything beneficial for them in order for whatever they're doing to happen. You know, let's take, for example, this thing I do with catching the snakes and stuff out here where I live. I mean, everybody's like, the people I talk to are like, how the hell can you do this? That's so gross, blah, blah, blah. You know, here's the thing, man. It's a skill. It's just like anything else. I grew up with snakes. I grew up with lizards and reptiles. I always wanted them, you know. That was my thing. So it's easy for me to know where to grab a snake and not get bit. Like, I'm not going to grab no copperhead or no rattlesnake by the tail. That's just stupid. You know, that's stupid. I can do a video and show you guys how the crocodile hunter and everybody does that. And it all has to do with they get the animal tired before they ever get it on camera. That way the animal's not losing its mind. I had a buddy that worked for one of those Animal Planet biologists, a guy named Jeff Corwin. Worked for him for a while. And that guy's cool. And don't get me wrong, I'm not going to dog him. The guy's cool. But the way that he did his show was he would send, 10, 12 people out into the desert, and they would run around until they found something. They would radio back to what they found, and he'd haul butt out to where it was and do a film opportunity. So that guy that showed me that also showed me all of the tools that they use. Now, here's the thing, the tools I use, I just use your standard old snake bag. I use a clip snake stick and a loop snake noose. I don't like to use the noose because it hurts the animal. That's only for big rattlesnakes or copperheads or stuff that I understand is too dangerous to really want to get too close to. So that's what I have that for. But being able to reach down and grab a snake by the tail and yank it up and, basically have my way with it while it just does nothing but gets upset. That I learned over an extended period of time. When I say extended, I mean all 50 years. I still look at them and wonder if I'm going to be able to do this or how I have to do it correctly. So it's not just, it's like anybody else, a welder or a basketball player, even LeBron James and Shaq, when they go to shoot that 3-point, they got to stop for a minute, measure their distance and throw. They don't just have instant muscle memory. But that expertise, they know exactly how much pressure and how much power to put behind it. So I come up with that analogy and I'm sitting here and I'm like, well, how does that help me? And I start thinking, okay, that's one of those, I understand my level of training. So when I sit in traffic now, if I start to feel like I'm getting frustrated or panicky or that, I might suddenly get freaking blown up, I'm going to start trying to work on breaking that down, that thought pattern down. Like, okay, if I'm the expert driver here and all of these people are amateurs, how would I train all of these people? And that gives me a chance to actually stop what I'm focused on. I could still look at the light and see that it's still green, but now I could start thinking, okay, if I started moving this car, that car, this car, that car, if I did this, I did that, I did this, I did that. After a couple of minutes, it breaks it down and I'm moving again. And that moment of anxiety where I was sitting around wondering what the heck was going to happen to me while I was just sitting here, it passes and it's gone. And for lack of a better term, I'm better. So if you can hear me, if you watch my show or listen to me, it's not that big. It's not that special. I'm not a super wise guy. Made a lot of mistakes. I'll share those mistakes with you. Hopefully it'll help you in the future. I'm not exactly a person to look at and go, I need to be like that dude. I'm more the person you look at and go, damn, that dude screwed up. So I decided to change my mind and I'm going with a different head on this guy just because, I don't know, I saw this thing and it reminded me of I just painted a Primaris Tech Marine for my buddy. And this helmet reminded me of that. Like this guy might have been a Tech Marine before Nurgle got to him and just, all that got thrown to the side. But this guy's almost done. He was a lot of fun to paint. One thing I've noticed as I've been putting these Death Guard guys together, I did a video the other day and talked about how they're all basically unique freaking pieces. There we go. They're all unique pieces, and even though those crazy heads pop out, I still like Space Marine helmets, you know. I like the look of these things. I like the way they sit on the little guys' heads, you know. They just look really cool. This guy's got that thing here in the front of his face, you know, like the Tech Marines do. So I just thought that was a really neat looking helmet, so that had to go on there. Someone asked me why I don't magnetize my stuff, and I tried. I did that once. And yeah, I'm good. You know, I'm not a tournament competitive player guy. So the whole everything has to be exact. Like one person was telling me that if I don't put the markings on the knees, then I wouldn't be able to play these guys at their tournaments. I'm like, if y'all are so dead set that you have to have like a little white arrow right there going down that dude's knee to make sure that everybody knows he's in an assault squad and not, you know, whatever. It's like, you know, that kind of, are we sure we need to get that in depth in this? You know, I mean, I did that for the advanced leader course for the military police. You know, I did an operation order that was 80 pages long and had everything you could possibly imagine in it. It's crazy. But, you know, at what point does that become the fun and playing the game stop being the fun? I know a couple people that are like that. They got to do the rules. I was like that for a while. I was very big on what does the rules say. When I was in the Army, I got lucky. And through some kind of weird happenstance, still not 100% sure how this actually worked out, I was selected to go to the United States Army Europe, or USARA, Motorcycle Safety Foundation instructor course, rider coach course. So basically, I was the guy that taught everybody how to ride motorcycles. I was the guy that gave people their little card that authorized them to have motorcycle as an endorsement on their European USARA driver's license. And it was pretty fun for a while. You know, I did some classes. You know, then I got asked to join a motorcycle club. I joined the King's MC. Was a pretty fun group, man. Lots of guys that, you know, hanging out. And then I went and met the people that founded the motorcycle club. And there was a guy, Lewis, that was in Iraq with me several years before. He was one of the founding members, and he saw me and he was like, holy crap. And he told everybody, hey, this is the guy that got me to get a motorcycle. I would hear his stories about riding bikes and the things he did, and that's what made me get a motorcycle. So they welcomed me with open arms, and it was really weird because we were one of very few white dudes. This is a primarily black brother motorcycle club. So they were not racist about it at all. Don't even let me try to say that. It wasn't that it was racist. It was mostly because most white dudes had Harleys in Europe and most black guys had sport bikes. I mean, there were Harleys and stuff going around, sport bikes on both sides. But if you want to stereotype it, that's, you know, generally what you were dealing with. And I was a sport bike guy. My buddy Brad was a sport bike guy. So we rode with them and we hung out, and it was great, man. It was really weird. I think it was the fact that, you know, I grew up with an uncle in the Banditos, and I grew up with uncles that were criminals. So I understood the whole motorcycle gang concept, if you will. Let's be realistic. Clubs are clubs, gangs are gangs. But this was definitely a club. And these guys were awesome, man. They just, you know, everywhere we went, every time we rode, I'm not a religious guy. In fact, I'm, kind of anti-religion in general, but everywhere we went, we always stopped, let these guys pray. I always bowed my head with them, because you would see the people in the army that say, I don't bow my head for nothing. While the chaplain prays, they'll just stand there and look at them. And it's like, I like your act of defiance for what you believe in, but that's not about you. You don't bow your head because you're subservient to a god or something or to their prayers. You bow your head out of respect for their beliefs. Took me a long time to get to terms with that, but I had someone explain that to me once, and as soon as they did, I stopped my stupidity and I started being a little bit more respectful when stuff like that was going on. Not for the religion, but for the people that were suffering, that were looking to it for comfort. That made me start thinking, why do my actions, why has everything got to be about me? It's not me. This is not me. As much as I would like to say, hey, this is Nick's world and Nick the guy, it's not Nick's world. It's not my world. I got to find my place in it. So that helped. That helped me come to terms with that. There's a few things that I'm still having serious troubles with. One of those things is the panic. It's not a fight or flight thing. That's the thing. That's what I always expected. I expected when they're like, yeah, you'll probably have panic attacks and this, that, and the other. You need to learn how to deal with that. I was like, well, I've seen on TV where this person acts like that. That ain't how it works, man. The way panic attacks work for me is I start sweating. I don't even know I'm nervous or anything else like that. No heart rate, nothing. I just start sweating. And it's so profuse sweating that any exposed skin that doesn't have like a shirt or something to absorb it is instantly freaking totally wet, 100% wet. And as soon as that happens, I start feeling like I'm going to pass out. Not that I'm, falling apart, sleeping. No, it's just like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I want to lay down. I want to go to sleep. And that'll last for about 2 or 3 minutes, at which time the heart rate kicks up. As soon as the heart rate kicks up, everything goes crazy. Then I start looking for, how the hell do I get out of here? Start thinking about making stupid decisions or dangerous reactions because I just want to get moving. I just want to move. I don't want to sit in this spot. So it's one of those. See that coming. And when that happens, then I know I can actually like stop and see I'm in full-blown panic mode, and I can do my best to calm myself down. Doesn't always work, but it does sometimes. I can catch it. Oh, there's my alarm going off. My son had to be work last night. I'd have to go pick him up right now, but he's good. So, yeah, man. It's hard to tell because, I ramble a lot. I have what's called racing thoughts. I didn't know what that was for a while, but basically I'll sit here and I'll talk to you about something and I'll think of something else and I'll go on that and I'll think of something else and I'll lose track of what originally I was talking about. This guy looks real good. I like how this guy's coming out. He looks real good. Get these. One thing I noticed on him, though, is there is a lot of little bubbles and driplets on him. And I like to do those really bright. I like to use moot green. And you got to base that in white, especially against this stuff, because the green that this thing, man, it's very hard to see it, but you can see it. Weird how I find myself holding my breath while I paint. It's because I don't want my hands to shake, but holding your breath makes your hands shake. So it's one of those wonderful things. Like, who's a guy from Austin Powers? It's a vicious cycle. I'm unhappy because I eat, and I eat because I'm unhappy. Yeah, you know, you can find whatever excuses you want for stuff, but when it boils down to it, whose fault is it? That's one of the things that this allows me to do, this painting. It allows me to take the time to analyze whose fault is it. And as much as I want to say, well, this person did that and that person did this, I analyze my actions. I'm not a nice person. I got kicked off my neighbor app because some guy was complaining about getting his gun stolen out of his car and how crime was on the rise and how we needed to come up with something and this, that, and the other. It's a very preachy thing. And it's like, okay, dude, I get that. But, you know, my question about this is, why the hell did you leave a gun in a car, unsecured, unattended, and then left the car unlocked? I appreciate that you think humans should be able to do that and you shouldn't have to worry about that. But let's be realistic, man. You gave a guy a gun. You gave a criminal a gun. Whether the person is a criminal or not, you know, you threw that option out there. You basically made it too easy to be a criminal. And I think about that and I think, okay, so if I'm going to judge this guy on this, and that's going to be my premise, you know, where do I come from on it? Well, I'm one of those guys that never left his weapon unsecured in the Army. I never had my stuff dummy corded or tied to me like I had to do with several privates who kept leaving their weapons laying around because they just couldn't be bothered to hang on to them. So that was not me. I never made those dumb mistakes. I've left my car unlocked, but I've never left a gun in my car. I'm very adamant about making sure there is never a unsecured, unattended weapon because, you know, what's the first rule of gun ownership? Don't get shot with your own gun. That's the very first rule. No matter what, do not get shot with your own gun. That makes you a 100% failure as a gun owner if you get shot with your own gun. So I pointed that out. And the guy kept bitching at me about, hey, why are you saying this? I'm like, dude, I don't care about your gun. I don't. He was sending me, private messages, which is why I don't do the whole social media thing. So anyway, he's like, well, why are you saying this? It's like, dude, look, I get that it happened and it sucked. And, that sucks for you. But if you're going to go on there and you're going to talk about how crime is on the rise and how we need to do something, those of us that know how to say, hey, maybe that was not the right way to come across it. But those of us that are adults are going to look at this and go, hey, well, why did this happen? How do we keep this from happening again? That's part of, understanding what you're doing and how to fix things. And if you want to, solve the crime rate, yeah, okay, great. Let's talk about the crime rate, but let's talk about what's causing the crimes. Let's talk about what's causing people to do these things. And, what did they used to say? Locks are really just to keep the honest people honest because you could still break into stuff. So if that's the case we're going to go with, then that was an honest guy walking down the road, saw a gun sitting on a dude's car seat, saw the car was unlocked, opened the door, grabbed the gun, and kept on going. Essentially. So we could all sit here and blame the guy and talk about how dumb he is, but exactly what does that solve? What exactly does that solve? You're right. But anyway, that was all I said about it. Then I got a notice that said I've been suspended for 4 days for bullying and victim blaming. And I'm like, wow, that is interesting. Bullying and victim blaming, because I explained that this is how this crime happened and this is what you do to prevent it in the future. But it's victim blaming when you tell someone factual information on how some event happened or went down. Still gets me. I mean, that could have been messy. Still gets me. I really don't care because, as I said, I don't do social media for the most part. It's a sometimes thing for me. But it bothered me nonetheless. Caused me to have to sit up here and contemplate what I did wrong in that situation. And that is when I came to the realization that, once again, it's not about that dude. It's about me in that case and what I did wrong. This guy was obviously looking for someone to tell him that what he did was okay and it's not his fault. And I get that. People want to be told that it's not their fault they're stupid, or it's not their fault they did something stupid. Because, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and talk about I'm perfect. I do all kinds of stupid stuff. But to point that out to people and make people realize that, it kind of leads me back to this study I read once that said the same part of your brain that's stimulated when you are told you're wrong or you have the realization that you are incorrect is the same part of your brain that's stimulated when you're in pain. Weird, right? So theoretically, the whole concept of being painfully wrong is a real thing because people actually associate being in physical pain with being incorrect. That's why nobody wants to admit that they're wrong. It's painful. Metaphysically, it's painful. Theoretically, it's painful. And now actually, physically, it's painful. Some people are physically in pain and they get told you're wrong. That's funny to me on so many different levels because the whole words don't hurt, right? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Apparently that ain't true. You're wrong. Take 10 points of damage. Roll 1d6 for damage. It's funny. So spent about 30 minutes talking, rambling, making sure you guys hear what I got to say because of how important it is. Got this guy almost done. We need a few more touch-ups here on him, but he's really a long on the way. I really like how this guy came out, like how he looks. He's really good. I think I might add a little weapons bronze to this piece on his forehead. Not the plate across the front, just the spike going up. Just to change the tone on that a little. There we go. That came out better. Much better. Oh. Apparently behind his head there's a bunch of little pustule bubbles like that I painted. Did them all detailed and looked at them, was all happy. Can't see them. But I know they're there. It's kind of like the the dashboards and console panels for my big guys. No one will never know they're painted, but I'll know. All right. Well, my Great Pyrenees Lola, she had her puppies on about 10 days ago. On the 1st, as a matter of fact, it was 10 days. On the 1st, she had her puppies. And they're downstairs. And last night at about 11 o'clock, Stella started having her puppies. So I have 16 puppies in my house right now. Lola and Stella both had 8. Because Lola's Great Pyrenees, and she's a blonde. Her puppies are beautiful. Oh my God. They're so pretty. The colors and markings. Oh, beautiful, beautiful puppies. But all the ones in Stella's little kiddie pool, those are all little black dots. And I'm hoping that at least one of them stays black. Stella's father was a black German Shepherd. Her mom was a normal color. So I'm hoping that recessive trait pops out. My wife's really, really, really hates albino animals. Just it freaks her out. But I was hoping also there would be a chance that we might get an albino in there. That would be awesome. Just literally awesome. So I've been asked to do paint lists, and I did a paint list one time for my fitted bloat drone, and it didn't get watched, so I'm just like, I'm not gonna do paint lists. Besides, my paint is, I grab something, I say, it's not quite right, I need something a little bit darker, and I'll grab something darker, or I'll let me start this over and I'll change something up. So it's not so much I don't do it because no one watched the video. It's I did it because I made the video, and if people watched it, I would have had to change that video. I would have had to delete that and start over and do something different. Redo it, edit, however you want to look at it. But I didn't want to do that or go through that, so that's why I don't do the paint videos. I like how some of the guys do, like Rob and my buddy Underdog over there across the pond. They show the color they're using when they use it. But there you go. I do that, and I tend to spill my colors, or I tend to hold them up and show you and talk about them and then shake them, and next thing you know, I've got all this stuff all over the table. Last thing I want to do is mess up models. Yeah. I like this guy. He just looks good to me. So I'm gonna finish up more slug and this guy. I don't even know what this guy's name is, but I'm gonna finish up more slug and this guy, and get cracking hardcore on this. I wanted to get these guys out of the way because I already had them all spread out when I started messing with it. So we get this guy cracking and get him done. Can hold this now and see my detail spots and start doing those. Oh, very excited about that. There's a guy on Etsy. I saw it when I did the Canis Rex model. He does cockpits for different bad guys. So I want to get a Nurgle cockpit, drop it in there, and paint the pilot inside of it. I think that would be pretty neat. but I got to get on these, get them started. I got to watch. I'm waiting for Underdog. He's been off for about 2 weeks. I want to hit him up and ask him about some stuff because his color scheme is great, but on big pieces like that, I need to figure out how I would do some of the body texture and get his expertise on that. Let's get some more shade on this hand. I don't like how light that one came out. But I want to get that 30K look, but you know. There's some details I missed. Should have thought about that. Up there in the armpit, there was some stuff. All right. Here. That's the good thing about looking at this in a magnifying glass. I can see where, okay, yeah, I totally dorked that tone up. I need to fix that. It's dorked up down here. Sorry. It's dorked up a little down here. Got a little on the side of the head I messed up. But I want to get this effect where you see it on the legs. You see that green depth to it. I want to get that all the way up the model. And that's where you use lots of light coats of Deathworld Forest Air. Very, very thin, but you put 4 or 5 of them on there and it gives it a depth. So that is what we're going to have for this morning, guys. Yeah, thanks for hanging out with me, listening to me ramble and try to figure out my place in this wonderful universe we got. No, I'll do a video here in a few and go get some footage of the puppies and upload it. All right. Y'all be cool. Be safe out there. And, you know, hey, for what it's worth, I had the Rona and I'm over it. I'm good. I'm still tired, but all last night, didn't cough once in bed. I was solid. All right. Be easy, y'all. Be safe, and for God's sakes, be excellent to each other.